Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. All the praises for Allah, who is the author of all existence and the most generous to His creation, whilst He is also the all-compelling. He is the only one worthy of our worship, having no partners, no associates, no sons, no daughters, no one whom He must insult, and no one or anything which has any comparison with Him. All the praises for Allah, who is the King of all who claim sovereignty, the only one who has the right to legislate for His creatures. He is the giver of life, and He is the causer of death, whilst death has no effect upon Him, because He is the ever-living, the self-subsisting, the eternal, and the only absolute. All the praises for Allah, who has power over all things, and there is in reality no power and no strength, no influence to cause benefit or detriment except through Him. It is He who created the complex world, the seen and the unseen, the evident and the speculative, the earth and all that is on it and everything that is in it. It is He who sent His messengers and prophets, alayhi salam, peace be upon them all, with a common message of strict monotheism, which simply means there is absolutely no one worthy of worship, no one worthy of our obedience except the Almighty, the One, the Absolute, and who has no partners. The earlier messages which changed the world in the area in which the prophets were sent, those messages we know have changed, and even the prophets who brought them, their names are now lost. We just know in general because Allah told us in the Qur'an in Surah Al-Nahl, I've sent to every nation a messenger calling people to worship Allah alone and to avoid the worship of false gods, Taghut. This essential message has been preserved in Islam in a way that it was never preserved before. Not because the message was different. The message was exactly the same. It was because of the fact that there would be no other prophets that would come after Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Therefore, that message now had to be protected. It had to be preserved in a way none of the earlier messages were preserved. A human being, regardless of who they are or where they are or what they do, will have this curiosity. They'll want to know, why am I here? How did I get here? And do I have a purpose? And if so, what is it? The only one who would really be able to answer that question would be the Creator Himself. If there is a Creator, it would be up to Him to tell us why we were created and what He expects from us and what this life is really about. Allah has shown the people from the time of Adam until right now, has shown the people what He wants from them. It is a very simple thing, and that is that worship be for Him alone without any partners. In fact, we know that this life is to be a test from Almighty God. That's why we're born and that's why we die, because there has to be a beginning and an end for us to be tested on. The next life, after this life, no one will ever die. A good person or a bad person, both are brought back, and they are either brought back in good shape or not so good shape, depending on how they did on the test. The worship of the God of Ibrahim, that was what was brought by these. That was what was taught by these prophets. And now passing on to Badr, inshallah, and he can start off with the spherical shape of the earth.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني ويفقهوا قولي. So, I just wanted to begin with talking about why the Earth is it's spherical in nature, essentially. So, I'm sure if you guys knew before that the previous people thought that the Earth was flat, and I wanted you to consider the Quranic verse regarding the alternation of day and night. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Seest thou not that Allah merges night into day, and He merges day into night?" So merging here means that the night slowly and gradually changes to day, and vice versa. And this phenomenon can only mean that the earth is spherical. Okay, so the Qur'an came to debunk this. And if the earth is flat, there will be a sudden change of night to day and from day to night if the earth is flat. And the following verse also alludes to the spherical shape of the earth. He created the heavens and the earth in true proportions. He makes the night overlap the day, and the day overlap the night. And the Arabic word used here is kawara. And this means to overlap, to coil, for example, the way a turban is wound around the head. And the overlapping or the coiling of the day and the night can only take place if the earth is spherical. But the earth is not exactly round like a ball. It's geospherical. It's flattened at the poles. And in order to understand the scientific miracles of the Qur'an, we must first take a look at the level of science at the time when this holy book was revealed. So it was revealed in the 7th century. And the Arab society had many superstitions and groundless beliefs where scientific issues were concerned. They had obviously a lack of technology to examine the universe and the nature. And these early Arabs believed in legends inherited from past generations. Asatir al-awwalin. And they supposed, for example, that the mountains, they supported the sky above. They believed that the earth was flat and that there were high mountains at both ends. And it was thought that these mountains were pillars that kept the vault of heaven high above. But, however, all these superstitious beliefs of the Arab society were eliminated with the Qur'an. And Surah Al-Ra'd, it was said that it is Allah who erected the heavens without pillars that you can see. Then He established Himself above the throne and made subject the sun and the moon, each running its course or a specified term. He, subhanahu wa ta'ala, arranges each matter. He details the signs that you may of the meeting of your Lord be certain. And this verse invalidated the belief that the sky remains above because of the mountains. And in many other subjects, important facts were revealed at a time when no one could have known them. And the Qur'an, which was revealed at a time where people knew very little about astronomy, physiology, biology, physics, and it contains key facts on a variety of subjects such as the creation of the universe, the creation of the human being, the structure of the atmosphere, and the delicate balances that make life on earth possible. Okay, and there's many secrets in the Qur'an. We're only going to touch on a few today, so I encourage you all to do your own research, inshallah, and take and propagate as a form of da'wah. So this is how the Qur'an has described mountains. So I alluded to them earlier. They thought they were, pegs to elevate the heavens and the sky. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Qur'an, in Surah Al-Naba, أَلَمْ نَجْعَلِ الْأَرْضَ مِهَادًا وَالْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادًا. Have we not made the earth a bed and the mountains as pegs? And it's interesting that the word pegs were used here, because modern earth sciences now have proven that mountains have deep roots under the surface of the ground, and that these roots can reach several times their elevations above the surface of the ground. So it's the most suitable word to use, pegs. So a peg is obviously hidden under the surface of the ground, isn't it? And the history of science tells us that the theory of mountains having deep roots was introduced only in the latter half of the 19th century, subhanAllah. And mountains also play an important role in stabilizing the crust of the earth. They hinder the shaking of the earth. And Allah has said in the Qur'an, He has placed into the earth firm mountains, so it does not shake with you, as well as rivers, and pathways, so you may find your way. And likewise, the modern theory of plate tectonics, tectonic plates, that mountains work as stabilizers for the earth, knowledge about the role of mountains as stabilizers of the earth have just begun to be understood in the framework of plate tectonics. I think it was in the late 1960s. Ayyuha al-ikhwa wal-akhawat, I want to ask you this question. Do you guys think that anyone during the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam could have known the true shape of the mountains? Could anyone imagine that the solid, massive mountain which he sees before him actually extends deep into the earth as a root, as the scientists assert? And a large number of books of geology, when discussing mountains, only describe that path which is above the surface of the earth. And this is because these books were not written by specialists in geology. However, the modern geology now has confirmed the truth of the verses in the Qur'an al-Karim. So I'm going to pass to Brother Shayan now, who's going to continue, inshallah, about the Big Bang, inshallah.
So inshallah, to continue, I'm sure all of you here must have heard of the Big Bang Theory, or seen something about it on the TV or on YouTube or anywhere. So in the field of astronomy in 1973, there was a couple of scientists who received the Nobel Prize, and these couple of scientists described the creation of the universe, and they called it the Big Bang. And they said initially our universe, it was a primary nebula. And then there was a Big Bang, there was a secondary separation, which gave rise to galaxies, the stars, the planets, the suns, the moons, and even the earth that we live on. This is known as the Big Bang. The Glorious Qur'an mentions this in a nutshell 1400 years ago in Surah Anbiya in Ayah 30. So it says, have those who disbelieved not considered that the heavens and the earth were a joint entity, and we separated them and made from water every living thing. So أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ, will they not believe? And another verse in the Qur'an saying, then he directed himself to the heaven whilst it was smoke, and said to it and to the earth, come into being willingly or by compulsion. They said, we have come willingly, so without force. Allah says that He said to the sky when it was smoke, come together with the earth willingly or unwillingly, and they said they come together in willing obedience. Today's scientists tell us that initially the celestial matter of the universe was in the form of gas. The Arabic word used in this ayah is dukhan. Dukhan does not merely mean gas, it specifically means smoke, and today's scientists say that smoke is a more closer and a more accurate representation in comparison to gas, because during that time it was more hot. Imagine the Qur'an has mentioned this 1400 years ago, something which has come to light recently. So what we have come in the Nobel Prize, all the efforts that have been put together by the scientists for them to discover all the technology that has been put together and with their understanding. But then the Prophet ﷺ brought this message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is Allah's words, saying that this is already here, so how can you not believe? أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. And inshallah, Badr will go on to the next part of the leash part.
So, embryology in the Qur'an is a subject that's been studied very, very, very vastly. So, all of you know the verse from Surah Al-Alaq, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق. Proclaim or read in the name of thy Lord and Cherisher, who created man out of a clot of congealed blood. Now the word alaq here can mean clot, congealed, a suspended thing, a leech, for example. Now a scientist, his name was Professor Keith Moore, you may have heard of him, wanted to actually investigate the information given by the Qur'an about embryology. Now he collected all the information, had the Qur'an translated, of course he read the translated Qur'an. He was a non-Muslim, by the way, and he's at the pinnacle of embryology, one of the best embryologists around. He was in Canada, University of Toronto. He was a professor and chairman of the Department of Anatomy. Now, so he wanted to investigate this. So he went and he took an embryo under a very, very powerful microscope. And he wanted to see the similarities and see what the Qur'an says about embryology and the creation of human, and what science is showing. He's a scientist at nature. So as you can see here on the screen, we've got so the word alaq can be compared to like a leech substance. And you have the embryo. The top image is an embryo over there, and you can see the leech. And subhanAllah, you can see very much so the resemblance. SubhanAllah, exactly the same. So you've got the same shape over there. And also, as you can read, the embryo at this stage obtains nourishment from the blood of the mother, similar to the leech, which feeds on the blood of others. Now, okay, so if we say, okay, maybe it's not, we play the devil's advocate here, and we say, okay, maybe not a leech, suspended thing, the other meaning of alaq is fine. So suspending thing. So here, I don't want to bore you with the science, not that I know all of it, but I don't want to bore you with the science over here. So we've got, on the right, you've got a micrograph of the embryo, so labeled B. That's the embryo, and it's been suspended in the womb, in the uterus, and the same thing on the left as well. And this is around 15 days old of the embryo. So this is the suspended thing that the Qur'an talks about in the womb of the mother. And the actual size of this embryo is actually, I think, half a centimeter. Very, very, very small. Okay, and also, alaq can mean more commonly a blood clot. Okay, and if we go to the next slide as well, inshallah, we've got a very vast blood supply of an embryo over there, and the external appearance of the embryo and its sacs during the alaq stage is like a blood clot. And around the third week, I think there's 21 days, the third week, you've got the blood supply doesn't actually move like a clot, so nothing's moving at that point, like 21 days. And then after that it starts to move like a blood clot, like a clotting bit of blood. And so yeah, subhanAllah, you've got a scientist that is a non-Muslim, he's gone and he's compared the evidences that he's got in his science and the evidences we have in the Qur'an, and he was very, very, very astonished at this. So Shayan?
No. And finally, for one of the topics, one more of the miracles, something which we have in our everyday life, water, ma. We know water is something we drink, sometimes we waste it, and sometimes we don't understand the blessing of water. And there's so many different blessings and different attributes of water that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is related to the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I'll give you some examples. So water as a building block of living things. So Al-Khaliq, the creator. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes how water, ma, is the building block of all living things. Like some of you might have studied biology, GCSE, A-levels, you know the cytoplasm, it contains a lot of water, 60% of water, 80%. And it's not surprising that the adult man is made up of 60% of water. And a man can survive with water for only 3 to 4 days. Otherwise, it becomes difficult, they can't survive, they need that water. So it is an essential liquid for our very existence. Further describing about creation, he implores man to remember his humble beginning from a liquid disdain. So we're talking about embryology, so semen essentially. A reminder for mankind who tends to forget and they become conceited. Secondly, rain as a provision. Al-Razzaq, the sustainer. So this is the main theme that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala often repeats, that rain is a mercy and a provision to mankind. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasizes that it is He who makes the rainfall and makes the barren land fertile, that brings forth food. So for example, the farmlands, the ones which are provided with all this water and all the food that we have, it's His mercy that the rain falls to provide water to drink and beautiful green like grasses for the cattle so that they may eat. He further describes rain as purified water and winds that bring the rain-filled clouds as bearing good tidings. So He sends sweet water from the mountains for man to enjoy. So think about this, the water that we drink is something which we love to drink. Imagine when you were a kid and you came back from a long day of playing football with your friends or your neighbours, and you come back and you have that little bit of water. How satisfying is that feeling? How nice does that water taste? It's better than any other taste in the whole world at that moment. So He made it clear that a man has no control over rain and warns that he is able to remove it. He challenges if anyone besides him can deliver water, and chastises man for his ungratefulness. For he could have made the rain bitter. So imagine if the rain was bitter. For example, the majority of the water that we have in this dunya is undrinkable, it's salted. So imagine if all the water that we had was bitter and we were unable to drink it, how would we survive? Alhamdulillah, this is the blessing of Allah, ni'mah of Allah. So reading these verses on the mercy Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has for mankind makes one wonder how many of His blessings that we take for granted. The detailed descriptions of the winds, rain, mountains, springs, gardens, green pastures, the fruits and grains for food are to help us understand that He has provided them for us to celebrate and enjoy life and to thank Him for them. And as we know, we enter Jannah because of what? Allah's mercy, not because of our actions. Sah? So this shows that the blessings that we have in this life, such as the water, the miracles that happen in this dunya, which sometimes we cannot understand. And we think, how's Allah allowed this to happen? This is all because Allah He's the absolute, He's the all-powerful. The third one is water as a sign. Al-Muhiyyi, the giver of life. So, for example, if you were to have water rain from the sky, or if you were to water your plants in the garden, what would happen? It would grow. If you didn't have that water, it would die. The crops would die. You wouldn't be able to feed the food to the family, to the animals, to the farmland, whatever it may be. And there's wild animals. Who provides for the wild animals when they are thirsty? After chasing, after running, after doing whatever, who provides for the wild animals? Are there people chasing the animals to give them water with bottles? No, Allah provides for them. He gives them the rain that is provided, it produces puddles, produces rivers. And finally, I'll give one more. There's many more, but I'll give one more because I don't want to bore you with the benefits. Water as a punishment, al-hasib, the counter. So it's a form of punishment. I think it's in Surah Waqi'ah as well, how Allah describes how water is a scalding water poured over their heads. Boiling water is their drink, boiling water from the tree of Zaqqum they eat, and afterwards they have boiling water to take it down. And companions of the fire, so the Ashab al-Nar would call to the Ashab al-Jannah, the companions of Jannah, for water, as it is one of the most prized things that you could ask for in Jahannam. For the disbelievers, for the ones who sin without repenting. The biggest thing you can ask for is water, the biggest prize. That's how much they need it. So appreciate this blessing, alhamdulillah. And to finish off, me and Badr, I will give a few anecdotes as well. Our own personal experiences, and I'll start off because I'm standing up. But like for me, as a first year, when I first went to university as a first year medical student, subhanAllah, I went into the anatomy lab, I saw my head of the year standing right there, and I see the whole room, it has a very foreign smell. It smells of formaldehyde. Some of you might have heard of that. It's a chemical which preserves the bodies after they have died, so that the students may learn from them. They fill the whole bodies with formaldehyde. They have cloths which are draining formaldehyde, and they put it all over the body. And then me and Badr, when we first saw it for the first time, you just look at the arm, you see the different vessels, you see that this has been created by someone. It cannot just be coming out of nowhere and all of a sudden, subhanAllah, this has had to take some sort of brains to make this, subhanAllah. And just being there, experiencing it with all the people, I went there for the first time. I thought I was going to faint. You see all the cuts, you see the different parts of the bodies, the abdominal region, and you're just like, subhanAllah, there has to be a creator for this. Everything works. It's like a system in your body. It works like a machine. It works accordingly. And if one thing is out of line, the whole body is out of line. How are we able to use the heart to pump blood for our whole body? How are we able to use the different intestines to digest the food in our body, to remove the dirty things from our body? The kidneys to remove the urine from our body. It couldn't have just happened out of nowhere. So alhamdulillah, Allah has created us in such a way which removes the bad from us and allows us to survive with the khair in what we are provided with, the ni'mah of Allah. And I'll pass it to Badr. Shukran, jazakallah khair.
Okay, so just wanted to, sorry, I forgot one slide over here. So this is a very interesting point. So this is 28 days after the embryo is developing. So this is the mudghah stage. It's the stage that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Qur'an after the previous stages that we talked about, after the clots, after the alaq. So mudghah in Arabic means a chewed substance. So someone compared it to a chewed gum. Someone chews gum and they chew it, and it looks like chewed gum. And you've got the embryo over there, and it looks, subhanAllah, like chewed gum. You've got the little fomites, they call it, on the embryo, the little divisions in between. So that gives it that chewed nature. So subhanAllah, this is another ayah, another sign to show that Allah has created us. The Qur'an gave evidences that when the Qur'an was revealed, the companions couldn't work out. So this is another evidence of the Qur'an. But yeah, jazakallah khair, Shayan, for your anecdotes as well. It's completely true. SubhanAllah, being in the medical field, I'm sure there's a lot of brothers in the medical field here as well. But when you see a body laid in front of you that's dead open, where you can see everything inside, especially when it's alive. For example, in a surgery, SubhanAllah, it's really, really, really compelling how you can see the liver, it's so bright. You can see the intestines, the surface area is huge. It's tightly packed in such a small area, but then, subhanAllah, the surgeons are pulling it out like it's rope, subhanAllah, very, very, very long. So, I think looking for the signs of Allah is not only, of course, doing tadabbur of what's around you, the trees, the skies, how it's raised with no pillars, etc., but also look at your bodies, look at yourselves. So, your hands, look at your elbows, how they're positioned. If you didn't have elbows, you wouldn't be able to eat. If you didn't have legs, you wouldn't have to walk. A brain to think, a heart to pump the blood around your body. For example, kidneys, like Shayan mentioned, to remove the urine from your body. And this is a mercy from Allah to make sure everything's in balance and make sure it's a good provision for us, inshallah. So jazakumullah khair for joining and for listening. It's been a pleasure to talk to you guys, inshallah. And keep us in your du'as. And also, please, I encourage you to look at the signs that Allah has given you in the Quran. Look at the evidences, look at the miracles, so you can then propagate and tell the masses as a form of da'wah, inshallah. And there's loads. We've touched on a very, 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 very few amount of things, but in the Quran there's evidences and evidences and evidences. So inshallah, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we'll conclude there. Jazakumullahu khairah, and inshallah we'll see you soon.